We're on a mining colony from the looks of things, and this pair here are expecting visitors. The visitors are wearing Starfleet uniforms, though closer inspection reveals them to have a number of minor differences. Even more curiously, the arrivals introduce themselves as Janeway and Tuvok before bartering for ore. There's some dancing around that smells like bullshit to me, but these strangers know an awful lot about the people they claim to be. They arrange a trade with the miners and depart, eager to be away before a space storm arrives. Voyager looks a lot different to how we remember it as well, a fact that might be explained by this lot being a bunch of frauds. Schmainway pulls a William Shatner and removes her hair, though Schmoovok says he rather likes his and keeps it on. They join a third fraudster who wasn't part of the away team. Maybe he's a schmadmiral and it was beneath him. The miners give them a call to let them know they're ready for the trade, and their ore is teleported aboard. Odd thing, though, they don't seem to have received the dilithium that was promised in return. Must be that danged storm interfering with their teleporters. Schmainway promises to return when it clears, and they leg it, leaving some poorer, but perhaps wiser, people in their wake. Over on the real Voyager, we're having a few technical difficulties. Janeway's sonic shower is a bit more sonic than it should be, but she's not alone. Systems all over the place are having problems, and B'Elanna's trying to track them down. One of those glitches affects the replicator system. It's nothing dangerous, but it might cause nausea, so we shut it down. I'd have thought anybody going into Neelix's mess hall would already know that's a risk they take. The cause of the problem here, and indeed everywhere else on the ship, is a part in Neelix's cooker. It's one he got on a recent trade mission from a religious leader of some sort who claimed to be helping orphans, because parts for an oven are exactly the sort of thing you'd expect them to be carrying and definitely isn't a massive red flag. The problems keep mounting when Chakotay calls Janeway to the bridge. We've been called by the guy in charge of a mining colony who wants to know where the fuck the dilithium we promised him is. We invite him aboard to try and figure out what's going on, and he shows us a very garbled message from someone wearing a red and black uniform, promising to be back soon. We can prove that we weren't anywhere near here from our ship logs, but he has no intention of believing those. The sort of people who'd lie to his men about helping orphans would have no qualms about falsifying some logs. Hello, orphans, you say? Like the ones Neelix's religious trader was helping? Time for some more information from him, and as we're in a TV show, let's do it in a flashback. He was poking through a cave with Paris looking for special healing mushrooms. At least that's what he says the mushrooms are for, though the alternative would explain why Neelix is always so happy. Anywho, they stumbled across some people who claimed to be from a religious sect and who mask their life signs for solitude. They also look a hell of a lot like Schmainway and Schmoovok, and masking life signs would be a great addition to a criminal's hideout. Neelix apologized for the intrusion, though at least Paris had the good sense to point a gun at them. While turning to leave them in peace, Neelix asked them if there's anything we could do to quiet the deities, who Schmainway said would be angry at she and Schmoovok for not hiding the cave well enough. Perhaps sensing a mark, Schmainway suggested that Neelix bears a resemblance to one of their revered icons. Sadly, the pilgrimage to honour that icon and the feeding of orphans that accompanies it won't be possible this year. You see, their hydroponics crops were destroyed. Neelix offered to help, which is interesting without getting confirmation from Janeway. We can even make it a trade so as not to offend the gods anymore. As an aside, fair play to the writers here, and I retract my previous objection. Getting a spare part for a cooker from a space monastery makes far more sense than a random encounter. To the Delta Flyer, then, to replicate some food in exchange, and talk about Voyager. A lot, with some very detailed questions. Before they left, Schmainway and Schmoovok blessed them with a flashy gizmo. Still, I'm sure it was just an innocent ritual thing, and definitely not them getting a copy of the Delta Flyer's database. We're on the Delta Flyer, and Janeway's confirming that somebody got a copy of the database. You know, the sort of thing that would make it really easy to impersonate us. The mining colony boss still thinks this whole thing is a bit dubious, but he has scans of the ship that Schmainway and Schmoovok were aboard. We might be able to use that to track them. If we hurry, we might even be able to prevent them from ripping off this lad right here. He's not impressed by the ship he's on, as, frankly, it looks like a real piece of shit. Schmainway explains that this is just the Delta Flyer, and the Schmadmiral, who we're now referring to as Schmakotay, shows off their real ship, Voyager. Schmoovok's really getting into character and explains that the Federation is a peaceful organisation, so Schmainway takes over, as that's not part of the con. She says Voyager is equipped with the sort of armament that makes enemies of the Federation think twice before engaging, and Schmainway is willing to share that protection with anybody who joins the Federation, for a negotiable fee, obviously. It's only fair that members contribute. The new Mark is still hesitant about all this, so they wheel out the precious sales tactics by saying they won't be back this way for another 6 months. Under the circumstances, he'd be a fool to not accept. A little later on, Voyager gets a sniff of the ship we're looking for. We arrive to find that we're not the only ones with a complaint. The guy they just conned into joining the Federation is back, and he's not impressed. Schmainway sold them some shit fireworks, and to add insult to, well, another insult, the people they were fighting claim to be part of the same Federation that he just joined. He's not in the mood for excuses, and instead sticks a tractor beam on their ship. Voyager gives them both a call to try and calm shit down, receiving no response from either, but Schmainway's had an idea. She calls the Mark and tells him Voyager is there to back her up, so he calls Voyager and orders us to stand down. Things all get a bit out of hand and pooping happens. When the smoke clears, the imposters have scarpered, but not before Voyager managed to teleport one of them into the brig. That leaves only us and a very pissed off fraud victim, so we make ourselves scarce. Time for Janeway to meet her counterpart. There's a little banter between them, but Schmainway is all swagger when she's told to give details of her crimes. Janeway decides to play the same game and bullshits her about how bad the justice system of one of their victims is, roping Tuvok into the lie as well. Schmainway is still resistant, but some of the arrogance is gone and they leave her to stew. We're treating her fairly though, and Neelix brings food, and a gun, I note, which isn't standard issue for a chef. I'd say it was a brig thing, but Janeway and Tuvok weren't armed earlier. I smell bullshit. Neelix enters the cell when the guard lowers the force field, and then doesn't raise it again or cover him while he's in there. The smell of bullshit grows stronger. Rather than leave after dropping off the food, he instead starts a conversation with her. They're comparable in a number of ways. She's basically what he used to be, and he explains as much. The appeal to her altruism takes a turn for the worse when she grabs his gun and poops first the guard and then him. Things aren't improved when she manages to make it to the Delta Flyer and escape without anybody stopping her. I still suspect this is part of a plan, but what we've learned so far about the quality of shuttle bay security means this last bit could be genuine. Shmuvok and Shmakote are arguing about going to rescue Schmainway, an argument that's somewhat rendered moot by her arriving in the Delta Flyer. She tells them to lower their shields so she can teleport over, but Shmakote resists. Rather delightfully, he's as unconvinced by her miraculous escape as I am, suspecting something nefarious. He's right, too, but not for the reasons he thinks. Paris is hiding in the biobed out back, and he's brought the doc with him too. Schmainway's managed to convince Shmakote to let her on board. She thinks it's time to grab the loot and skedaddle, though Shmakote doesn't take kindly to her assuming command. He's even less impressed when Shmuvok detects life signs on the Delta Flyer, assuming this to be her doing. Paris gives them a call and tells them to surrender before pooping at them. Rather than stop them, this causes them to turn around and scarp her, probably to where they hid the loot, which would be very useful if we were following them. They've arrived at the treasure planet and are about to go and grab it. Schmainway says she'll accompany them down, a decision that surprises Shmakote as she's never got involved in the heavy lifting before. Mistrust is a two-way street. They teleport down and get the loot ready for grabbing. Slight change of plans, though. Schmainway pulls out a real comm badge and calls Voyager, saying the loot is ready to be returned. Unfortunately, there's a science wibbly around the planet that's getting in the way of Voyager's teleport, giving Shmakote a chance to go for his gun. He doesn't quite make it and gets some yellow pooped on him for his trouble. Shmuvok does a better job, but he needn't have bothered as it passes right through her. Or should I say him? Fair play to the writers here, I didn't see that one coming. I wonder where he's put the mobile emitter. Schmainway docks scarpers as Shmuvok follows. Backups arrive though, and it's distinctly Tuvok-shaped. Shmuvok regards him in a manner not unlike meeting your hero, though getting blinded then shot in the gut puts an end to that. Tuvok turns just in time to stop Shmakote getting the drop on him, and we have the obligatory reveal for people who weren't paying attention. As an aside, this suggests he can make the emitter part of his costume. I wonder why he didn't do that in Fairhaven. Oh, and Schmainway wakes up in the Delta Flyer's biobed after her sleepy time juice-induced nap. Her hair's been lost somewhere along the way, and I'm choosing to believe that it made a nest in the Delta Flyer and is now allowed to live there permanently as a mascot. Janeway returns all of the stolen gubbins in the hopes that this won't impact anybody's opinion of us, the ones that don't know about our involvement with multiple genocides anyway. The whole thing has put a dent in the confidence of Neelix and Paris, two former dodgy bastards embarrassed at getting ripped off, so they try to con the doc with a trick that failed earlier. They succeed this time, much to the Doc's frustration, and we leave them to celebrate still being able to defraud people as we fly away. You know, Voyager doesn't meet nearly as many bastards as it should. I don't mean aggressive like the Hirogen or the Kazon, and I don't mean authoritarian like the Devore or the Leather Biker Squad. I mean bastards, just straight-up selfish shitbags. No motive beyond personal gain, no excuse beyond just wanting to. People like Mickey McDougal the Malon from the Season 5 premiere night. If you think about it, Voyager is the perfect target for fraud. We're open and honest and trusting, and we're also never coming back to complain. Fertile ground for getting ripped off or exploited by bastards, yet we so rarely seem to come across any. Maybe the selfish, arrogant greed of current-day humanity is an anomaly among sentient species, or maybe all the complete bastards got nicked by Star Wars. Either way, that general absence of proper scumbags makes me sit up and pay attention when some come along, even when it's relatively low-stakes stuff like this. The whole thing's deliberately played tongue-in-cheek to stop it from getting too dark, but that gives us opportunities to be a bit silly, too. Tuvok's improvisation for Janeway and Tim Russ's well-played fumble of it initially give us both a little taste of comedy and a rare glimpse of Tuvok being anything other than perfectly composed. Shmoovok's commitment to method acting doesn't make any sense, but it's fun, and that's worth its weight in latinum as far as I'm concerned. Another example of those concessions I mentioned a few episodes ago. The same concessions apply to the uniform inaccuracies. They've got a whole database to copy from, so there's no reason for them to be wrong, but a double-sized comm badge just for the hell of it is a silly and thus welcome addition. Our guest stars do their jobs comfortably. Caitlin Hopkins makes a good Schmainway and an even better underhanded git, and Greg Daniel Schmoovok walked the line of copy and parody quite nicely. Francis Guinan doesn't really get the chance to stretch with Shmakote, but that's not his fault. Given that Chakotay's screen time often references his heritage, it's probably just as well that we didn't have a parody of that. I suspect even the most well-intentioned attempt would have aged very poorly indeed. Before we go, a point to whoever added the exchange about Tuvok's holodeck program being altered. It's likely a nod to Ashes, the story 3 episodes ago, which ends with Kim and Mazzotti going off to the holodeck for a bit of vandalism. These little payoffs are precisely the sort of minor continuity elements that contribute to overall world building, and this is a good example of how that can be done without the viewer needing prior knowledge. End of episode.
So we've gone from killing 1 person to wounding 5? I'm not sure that's progress.
Depends which way you look at it, I guess. Is injuring multiple people more morally acceptable than killing 1? And what about the ripple effects caused by those injuries? The fear experienced by loved ones, the trauma of those who recover, forced to process the knowledge that they too are mortal and may at any moment have their existence extinguished by pure random chance. What right have we to wear the cost in human suffering?
Actually, I just meant it was going to be more work for us.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a fair point too. Woof.